Hi, today I'm going to speak about Esperanto, a 127-year-old, easy to learn, politically neutral language designed to bridge the linguistic gap between different cultures, or in layman's terms, a created language. So to understand how I came to this language and why I decided to learn it, you need to know a little of my history. Each of the black stars represents a location where I lived for a year of my life. The red star is Sydney for the geographically impaired. Now, as we all know, Australia is primarily a monolingual culture. We don't actually speak other languages here. Yes, we may study Chinese, Japanese, French in school, but we don't actually use these languages. But one of the little towns I grew up, way up in North Queensland, it's a small little Aboriginal community. It's actually called Ravenshoe. It's pretty much famous for only being the highest town in Queensland. Now, when I went to school here, they had an Aboriginal language on the curriculum. So this was the first time I actually realised there was other languages out there. See, I had heard German for 6 years because my grandma had been screaming at me, but I just assumed it was really bad English. So I guess this was the first time that I realised there was foreign languages and it sowed that seed in me. It sowed that desire to learn them. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Okay, so I'm in high school. I'm studying Japanese. It's purely for linguistic reasons. It's got nothing to do with my entire class being female. It's got nothing to do with me going to Japan at the end of the year, or it was rumoured that we'd be staying at an all-girls Japanese school. Nothing to do with that. Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead again. I'm in the army. I'm posted just off of Newcastle, this little town called Singleton. There's nothing there. After hours, I can either go drinking with the mates or I can learn something new. I did drinking for 2 years. It started to kill me. So it was time to learn something new. So one day, while at work, being highly productive individual as I was trolling through Wikipedia. And I stumbled across this article about international languages. And this one word kept popping up. Esperanto, Esperanto, Esperanto. And me, being the highly cultured individual that I am, instantly assumed it was Spanish. You know, Espanol, Esperanto, yeah. No? Okay. Don't worry about that one. So I decided to click on the article and I read through it. And I found a couple of really interesting facts about Esperanto. One, it's a created language. It was designed by an individual. And two, it has native speakers. And not just native speakers, but fourth generation native speakers. It's a language without a country with native speakers. So I thought, hey, you know, this sounds kind of interesting. I might try learn a little bit. And I stumbled across a learning website. I took a 30-minute course. And at the end of that 30 minutes, I realised I could speak more Esperanto than I could Japanese, which I studied for 4 years at school. That really kind of hooked me. Mind equal blowing. You know those types of moments? Yeah, one of those, mind equal blowing. So I thought, hey, what could I do for a week, a month, a year, a lifetime? How good could I get at this? Mind you, it took me like 10 years to tie my shoes. So this was a real achievement for me. Now, 3 months later, I'm outside the army. I'm actually speaking Esperanto, near fluency, discussing everyday affairs. 9 months later, I'm actually part of the Australian Esperanto Association, which is like a political body. And a year later, I'm over in China doing business deals in this created language. Now, at the same time, I'm also an actor, okay? And anyone who's worked in the film industry knows being an actor is really difficult. There is 1 million actors for every one job, and we'll kill each other to get that damn job, okay? So I'm, at this time, also realising that Esperanto is quite helpful. It's actually getting me work, because there's not that many Esperanto actors. Now, I'm thinking probably at this stage, is that you're thinking, just shut up and speak some of the language. Okay, so I'm going to speak a little bit so you can hear it. Nun mi parolas Esperanton. Ĝi estas la internacia lingvo de la mondo kaj mi esperas ke unu tage mi povas paroli kun vi. So I basically said, I'm speaking Esperanto now. It's the international language of the world, and I hope one day I can speak it with you. Now, just a few little interesting facts. What's the point of learning a language if no one speaks it? Well, in 1999, there was actually 2 million people. They predicted 2 million people that spoke it. So imagine now with the birth of the internet and people like me suddenly discovering this language, how many people speak it? It's probably about 10 million. Now, what about economically? Why would I use this language? Well, this is the Language Festival Association. It's a big group here in Sydney, and all the board of directors actually speak Esperanto because English is just too hard for some of them. Now, one last interesting fact. This here is a famous author in Esperanto, okay? One of the most famous in the world. He grew up in Ravenshoe, that tiny little town in Queensland, which is only famous for being the highest town in Queensland. And he left a couple of years before I moved there. Okay, so what's the freaking odds of that? Okay, now finally I just want to say, learn Esperanto. It's an awesome language. Speak to me afterwards. 2, don't underestimate those small little towns in the middle of nowhere because they produce crazy people like me. Thank you very much.